Good evening, and thank you for joining us. The rejuvenation of Chippewa Park has been getting a rejuvenation when the merry-go-round is getting a federal financial boost to help with the ongoing project of restoring the historic landmark. $100,000 was invested towards the revival of the century-old CW carousel. The announcement came from MPP for Thunder Bay Rainy River, Don Rusnak, on behalf of the Minister of Fednor, Navdeep Bains. Like many other locals, Rusnak grew up playing at the Chippewa Amusement Park and believes that others should have the opportunity to do the same.
Reinvest in it and reimagine it to make sure future families can enjoy what I enjoyed when I was a kid, and I know I'm going to bring my kids there this summer.
It was always exciting as we were kids. It's part of who we are, and you don't want to throw away what's important and rare in the community. It's kind of like an interactive museum.
In addition, the City of Thunder Bay has committed $200,000 towards the project. The Restoration Committee says the need is a total of $1 million by the end of 2018. With these donations, they're already a third of the way there. The intersection of Algoma and Bay Streets is one of Thunder Bay's most dangerous for pedestrians. According to a walkability report from the City District Health Unit and Lakehead University, there were 12 auto-pedestrian collisions there between 2004 and 2013, more than any other intersection in town. Researchers looked at over 600 collisions during that 10-year period. 8 resulted in fatalities, and 70% of those collisions happened at intersections. 40% happened as a result of some sort of driver error. The report also highlights hotspots for auto-pedestrian collisions. Algoma and Bay topped the list with 12 collisions, followed by Arthur and Edward with 11. Arthur and Mountvale had 8 collisions, while 2 other Arthur Street intersections, along with Memorial Avenue and Isabel Street intersection, had 6 collisions each. The walkability report's most recent numbers came from 2013, but McKellar councillor Paul Pugh wanted newer stats as the intersection of Algoma and Bay was improved in 2012. However, LU researchers say data for recent years is incomplete or missing, while other, more detailed information was also unavailable.
So we don't have a number of trips, we don't have a volume of cars and pedestrians. This is something that some other communities do have through a survey called Transportation Tomorrow. Unfortunately, Thunder Bay isn't one of the communities involved in this survey, but it would be excellent to have additional data.
The walkability report also included a survey of improvements pedestrians wanted to see. Walkers said they want more sidewalks and multi-use trails with more snow clearing, maintenance, and lights on existing routes. Government taxation policies were under attack at Queen's Park this week, with the opposition Conservatives claiming residents of remote northern communities are carrying an unfair burden. Their concern centers on high aviation fuel taxes, claiming it's a major expense in areas that rely on air carriers for transportation services. Adam Riley has more.
Last week, the province announced that it would support an intercommunity bus service through the Ontario Northland Transportation Commission and other private carriers in the Northwest, providing once-a-day community bus service.
People living in Northern Ontario do have the right to rely on public transportation to travel between their communities, especially in those remote communities. Those communities include Hearst, Hornpain, White River, Red Lake, Emo, Rainy River, Fort Francis, Atikokan, Red Rock, and other communities.
But progressive Conservatives at Queen's Park say those living in communities in the far north, the ones off of the provincial road networks, face undue financial hardship. This is due to a 148% increase in the aviation fuel tax.
As a direct result of this increase, Northerners have seen the cost of everything from food to fuel to personal travel for medical appointments go up. Will the Deputy Premier admit that this increase has created unnecessary hardships for Ontarians living in remote northern communities? Question. And will she agree to reverse this tax?
Since 2014, the province has added 1 cent per year to aviation fuel taxes. As of April 1st of this year, the rate sits at 6.7 cents per litre. Finance Minister Charles Sousa says the bulk of the increase comes from factors outside of provincial control.
Aviation fuel tax was previously amended in 1992, and it was at 2 cents a litre. The majority of aviation fuel is the federal tax, and we have made it clear that the recent decrease in jet fuel prices, greater than 4 cents per litre, increase in aviation fuel has been phased out between 2014 and 17.
Sousa says the aviation fuel tax is a way for many northern communities communities to receive an additional revenue stream for various infrastructure projects. Adam Riley, TBT News.
Well, switching over to international news, Iraq declared victory over ISIS today, 2 days after officials announced the defeat of the extremists in neighboring Syria. But while the government has confirmed the end of combat operations, there are warnings. Genevieve Beauchemin explains.
Ground forces flew the Iraqi flag through the western deserts of the country, announcing they wiped out remaining pockets of ISIS fighters. We have liberated the last joint border point with Syria, says this military commander. We're now on the main road between Iraq and Syria. The Prime Minister boldly declared victory over the terrorist group that once ruled over 1/3 of the land here. Honorable Iraqis, he announced, your land has been completely liberated. Your cities and villages have returned home. The government then declared a public holiday, a day that comes after more than 3.5 years of brutal conflict. ISIS marched into Iraq in the summer of 2014 and made quick advances, then declared a caliphate. Iraqi forces backed by the U.S.-led coalition began a counterstrike. And this July, after 9 months of urban combat here, ground forces retook Mosul, considered the capital of the ISIS regime. We're free from ISIS, shouted this little boy then. And other extremist footholds also fell in the months that followed. But for those who survived the brutal regime and the battle to win back this land, the losses have been unbearable. More than 3 million people have been pushed from their homes. ISIS took everything, he says. They had the food, the water, the medicine. And despite advances against ISIS, observers say it's not time yet to proclaim a total triumph.
It's easy to push an enemy out. The question is, can you hold the area, much less build it and then develop it?
ISIS fighters could strike again, and there's an economic crisis in the country. And it's clear that rebuilding what was destroyed during the war will be no easy task. Genevieve Beauchemin, CTV News, Montreal.
Well, Thunder Bay is one of 14 Ontario municipalities the province has identified with an intention of opening standalone cannabis stores. Legalization is roughly half a year away, and production companies are deep into their preparations. As Annie Bergeron-Oliver reports, a company in Eastern Ontario is leading the way.
It's a budding business that's growing faster than ever. And at Tweed and Smiths Falls,
in here, these are just beginning to move into the stage of having flowers.
Production is ramping up, with legalization just 7 months away.
I think it's going to evolve in, and what's going to happen is you're going to start with very simple products, which are the traditional dried cannabis and also oils. But I bet in 2019 we leapfrog edibles and we jump right into delivering something directly competitive to alcohol.
The local company has grown exponentially since it started in 2012 with just a handful of investors. Now it has nearly 700 employees and facilities from coast to coast.
It's grown quite a lot. The value of the company's gone up, but we've raised about $600 million and spent quite a lot of that creating infrastructure in communities where the buildings were empty and the people were unemployed.
Some of these plants getting set for a move to Newfoundland.
The advantage for like Atlantic Canada is now we take the genetics and now we're breeding these genetics. We'll even have specialized breeds that we can take down there.
On Friday, the government there signed a deal making Tweed its largest supplier of marijuana, providing up to 8,000 kilograms of cannabis when it becomes legal next summer.
While the agreement guarantees the province the supply of cannabis, it does not preclude the province from purchasing cannabis from other license holders, current or future.
Tweed currently occupies just over 160,000 square feet of the old Hershey factory. Its brand new facility in Newfoundland will be about the same size, and they're hoping to have it open by February of 2019.
And so we think we can actually create a facility there that will be primarily an exporter in a sense.
In addition to a $40 million facility, Tweed will also open 4 storefronts, creating a total of 160 jobs. It's a model Linton believes has potential outside the province.
When we start creating product in that province, brand it the right way, I can see this becoming something that's pretty interesting across the country and who knows around the world.
Annie Bergeron-Oliver, CTV News.
Well, the turkey is a staple for most festive feasts, and thanks to Leadership Thunder Bay, dozens of families in need will have a turkey dinner this holiday season. Over 70 turkeys were purchased by Leadership T-Bay Group and packed it into cars for delivery to the Regional Food Distribution Association. They raised over $2,000 through donations for the annual occasion. Sean's No Frills offers the group everything at cost so they can maximize their return for those in need. There are many families that will now have a special holiday dinner, says Leadership Thunder Bay President Matthew Villela.
72 families get turkeys and food that normally wouldn't be there. Right? So I know that they are struggling with getting food in, and this is a good way to help out.
This is a great opportunity to help more in the community, and it's such a growing need. More families need help feeding themselves.
They don't just supply the birds, though. The group also purchases dozens of boxes of stuffing and cranberry sauce to complete the traditional meal. Villela says that with the continued success of the program, they're already looking forward to next year. Speaking of looking forward to next year, I think TFC fans, they're already looking forward to next year because they are the reigning MLS Cup champions. First Canadian team ever to do it.
Absolutely. Well, they were looking forward to this year,
especially
after
with
last
Seattle
year, right?
last
with that
year.
bitter disappointment, but they have rewritten history this afternoon. And we are going to get to that.